Good evening. I am here to present to you the week 8 informational walkthroughs. So this is the first one in the series of 3, and this will be going over the assignments and the basic information for the module. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And then we will go into the view as student. And then we will come down to week 8. And let's take a look at the overview. 2 lessons for this week, 2 activities plus your journals. There is a quiz. There are your focus areas for the quiz. And then there are 2 surveys. Each survey can earn you up to 2 extra points. So if you complete this particular survey, which is in Canvas, this is course feedback, you will automatically earn the 2 points once you complete the survey. In order for students to earn the 2 points for the instructor evaluation, 100% of the students need to complete the evaluation, and then you will see 2 points added on to your score. So let's review the overview, and then we'll go through the assignments. So for the week 8 overview, and this will go, it's live already, but it will be your homepage tomorrow. We've got our course objectives, and the topics are going to be loss, grief, mourning, and bereavement, and dying and end-of-life care. This link will take you back to the module, and then these are the specific objectives for this week. For loss, grief, mourning, and bereavement, these are your objectives, learning objectives. So being able to distinguish between grief, mourning, and bereavement. Those are 3 separate terms. Describe stages of loss and grieving according to Kubler-Ross, which is DABDA, which most people are familiar with. But we're also going to look at Bowlby and Worden's theories about loss and grief. And then compare and contrast functional, dysfunctional, or complicated and anticipatory grief. And then identify at least 2 components of dysfunctional or complicated grief so that you can recognize it. And finally, discuss the role of the healthcare provider in facilitating someone through the process of grief and loss. Here are your reading assignments for Lumen Learning and Lally and French Valentine. These are this is only one section for this particular one. So together that will give you the complete information, as well as doing the other Course Hero, 5 stages of loss and bereavement and grief. There is the lesson, which we will do in the second video in this series. And then the activity assignment. Let's look at this for right now. So this is reflections on loss and supporting someone experiencing grief. So if we click on that, it should take us to the assignment, which it does. And so for this assignment, you're going to reflect on your personal grief reactions and develop ways to support a grieving person. So that meets the last objective for this lesson. Because this is a personal reflection, you're not required to post any references, but you may if you feel the need to do so. So the first part, first paragraph, this will be 2 paragraphs or more, but at least 2 paragraphs. The first paragraph is to reflect on losses you have experienced in your life. How did you react to those losses? Did you know they were coming as an anticipatory grieving? Or is there anything special that specifically helped you through this time? Perhaps a friend or support group, and then write at least a paragraph on this topic. It's important to understand, and you'll see in this particular lesson in the next video, that loss does not mean losing a person, losing someone close to you. Loss can be losing a job, losing a house, not doing as well as you thought you might on an exam. There are many different types of losses, losing an animal, a pet, things like that. So it doesn't have to necessarily be the death of somebody. And then in the second part, now that you've reflected on your reactions to loss, you're going to reflect and think about how to support someone through their grief process. So you're going to choose one method of support from the list below, which I will go over here, and describe how you could use it to support a grieving person. So you'd want to identify the person that you're providing support to, and a rationale for why you chose the particular method that you chose. And you want to write at least one paragraph on this. So one of your choices is acknowledging that person's loss. You can support a person who's expressing mixed emotions by acknowledging that relationships are complicated, that both caregiving and being sick are difficult, and that having mixed feelings is normal. Now, these particular choices that you have of ways to help support someone through their grief process, this is in generally in regards to losing a person to the death of someone. The second way that you could help a person through their grief would be leaving room for silence. It takes courage and confidence to witness deep grief and stay present, perhaps only offering a gentle touch or companionship in silence. Sometimes the mere presence of another human can be comforting. So in the nursing program, we subscribe to Swanson's caring theory, and being present is one of her 5 methods of providing caring. So we also talked about how you might be able to support the family of an 8-year-old who had committed suicide when we were talking about the school-age child, and that the rate of suicide in the 5 to 11-year-old population is increasing. And several of you had related that you weren't really sure what to do because you didn't have a lot of experience with children, and it was just very overwhelming for you. So sometimes leaving room for silence is okay. That's what you can do, and the family would appreciate it. Individualizing care is a third way. So every grieving person has a unique grief experience and requires individualized care. Your compassionate response to each person will indicate that there are many normal ways to express grief and support a person in their grief. So there isn't really, we call it like a cookie cutter or like a map of a way to support a grieving person, because everybody grieves differently. We can give you tips and tools, but you need to have those in your tool belt, if you will, to be able to utilize the ones that you feel are necessary for each particular person and their individual needs. And then finally, the fourth way would be making room for tears. So crying is a normal, healthy response to grief. Sometimes other people's tears trigger your own. This is normal and can be comforting to the other person because they can see that you understand. So many times people will ask me, well, is it okay if I cry? You know, people as a nurse or healthcare provider, is it okay if I cry in the situation when someone's family member has died? And my response is always, you do what you're led to do. If you're feeling that you need to cry, then you cry. If that's what the situation, where the situation leads you, then that's what you do. You don't overact. You don't take away from the family that's grieving, but sometimes you can't help but cry. And sometimes the family likes to see that you're human as well. And then your rubric for that. So it's divided into 2 parts. The first part about your reaction to personal loss, and the second part choosing one of those methods of support for a grieving person. And there is that assignment. And then if we go back to, let's see, we were on loss, grief, mourning, and bereavement. So that was the lesson, that was the assignment. And then for the reflection journal, again, only 1 entry for each lesson this week. If you click on this link, it will take you to what you need to do for your journal entry. So we'll click on that page. And this is a poem that is often read at funerals, hospice, and other people often will provide it to people. And then so you could take it, if you're a spiritual person, you can take it that it has spiritual meaning or maybe something else. You can read the poem, and then there's also a video to play here that you can do, that you can watch. And then what does the poem mean to you? How do you interpret the poem? And that's up to you. It's your own personal opinion and interpretation of the poem. And then how do you imagine that you might use this to support a grieving person? You may choose to answer that you don't think you'd be able to use the poem as a method to provide support, but you need to provide a rationale for your decision. So the poem is called Gone From My Sight. I actually read it at my mother's funeral. And I will read it for you just because I like to read it. It's called Gone from My Sight. I am standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the morning breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud, just where the sea and sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There, she's gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight. That is all. She is just as large in mast and hull and spar as she was when she left my side, and she is just as able to bear her load of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone at my side says, "There, she's gone," there are other eyes watching her coming, and other voices ready to take up the good and glad shout. "Here she comes." And that is dying. And so the credit is given to Henry Van Dyke, but it perhaps was written by Reverend Luther Beecher, the cousin of Harriet Beecher Stowe, and first published in 1904. So this is a very, very old poem, but it holds meaning for many people. And so here's a video of that as well that you can watch on your own time. So that's all you have to do. What does it mean to you? And how do you imagine that you might use it to support or not support a grieving person? Okay, so I believe then that covers the objectives, the reading, the lesson we will do in the separate video. We went over the assignment and the journal entry. So the second lesson is dying and end of life care. And so these are the objectives for that. Describe the concept of death and dying according to developmental stage. So meaning how do people of different developmental stages, what is their concept of death? Because a child looks at death very differently than an adult looks at death. Identify at least 4 signs common to impending death. Research cultural aspects of death. Compare and contrast hospice and palliative care. Compare and contrast legal health care documents. And examine ethical concerns regarding end-of-life issues like euthanasia, for example, physician-assisted suicide, and then discuss the role of the healthcare provider, healthcare professional in end-of-life care. And there is your reading. These are rather similar together. And then also Course Hero has those topics as well. The lesson, which we will go over in the 3rd video in the series, and then your activity assignment, and then your journal entry. So let's look at the activity assignment first. This particular activity is called Make Your Own Bucket List. So there was a movie in 2007. This is the official trailer for the movie that starred Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. It's called The Bucket List. They're 2 older guys with terminal illnesses. They're going to die, and they happen to share a hospital room. And Jack Nicholson's kind of the uppity one, and Morgan Freeman's kind of the calmer one. And they each have a bucket list of things they wanted to see or do before they die. That's what a bucket list is. So you'll hear people say, well, that's on my bucket list of something that I want to do before I die. And so they actually went on an adventure together to try and get their lists completed, regardless of what their families thought they should or shouldn't do. So I encourage you to watch the trailer. It's kind of funny. And so here's your activity assignment to do. So make a bucket list of at least 10 things and order them from most important to least important that you'd like to see or do before you die. So this might be a little bit difficult for those of you that are in a younger age bracket because you might not be sure of what you want to do, but that's okay. Do it in terms of things that you would like to see or accomplish now and perhaps later in your life. You know, is it visiting someplace? Is it going to Stonehenge or seeing the Eiffel Tower? Or maybe it's getting married and having children. Maybe it's owning a Corvette. I don't know, think midlife crisis, right? Where you guys are working through the midlife crisis watch party assignment. You know, it could be something like that. So the original assignment called for 20 items. I knocked it down to 10 because I thought that would be a little bit easier, may or may not be easier. that you like to see or do. So that's the first part. Make the list and put it in order of importance. And then, considering your list, taking your list into consideration, write a reflective essay explaining the most important things that you want to accomplish in your lifetime and why. So you want to go through that list then and explain why each thing is important to you and why you want to accomplish it. So, like if you wanted to travel or perhaps see, we'll say the Eiffel Tower, why is that important to you? Well, because I've never been out of the country. I want to see another country. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world. It looks really cool. I've never been out of the United States. So I'd really like to see that, or tour the 7 wonders, modern wonders of the world, or something like that, because that's important to you. You want to travel, you want to see things. And so then the next thing that you want to do is to analyze your bucket list in terms of Erikson's theory of psychosocial developments. We're back to Erikson and looking at that. So here's the thing: make the bucket list and put it in order. If you want to put why it's important in that first section, that's fine. You can do that kind of like as a list. That's okay. But this analyze your bucket list in terms of Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, that should be an essay part. And there's really not, there's 350 words. So that's not too many words. So you want to analyze it in terms of psychosocial development. So explain how completing your list would help you to positively resolve the stage of ego integrity versus despair. Again, that may be difficult for some of you that are younger, but if you go back and read what that stage is like, you could also talk about generativity versus stagnation. And it could be that the things on your bucket list actually go through the stages. Because what if you want to get married and have kids? That would be intimacy versus isolation, right? And then maybe you're still in identity and role confusion. So maybe there's something that maybe career or something you want to be a nurse, to be a lawyer, to be whatever it is that you want to be. And then maybe you want to volunteer for the Red Cross or something, or give back in some way. That's generativity. So you may see that those bucket list items go through those stages as well. And so how will that help you to positively resolve specifically ego integrity versus despair? But you can mention other stages as well. And describe and explain the stage. Be sure to describe and explain the stage in Erikson's theory. So define ego integrity versus despair, and include specific examples of how completing items on your list or not completing them, would affect how you resolve this stage. So if I'm going to have my ego integrity intact and not feel despair, probably I would have wanted to accomplish generativity as well. So perhaps my going to Paris to see the Eiffel Tower is going to make me feel like I've done something. It's part of who I am that I haven't had a chance to explore yet. And if I don't get to do that, then I may have despair because I might feel like I've missed out on something. So keep in mind, number 3, how previous stages are resolved, because that might affect the bucket list. And then include the detailed discussion of specific examples from your list. And so then the rubric is that you do the bucket list, and then the things that you want to accomplish and why, and then analyzing Erikson's stages, and then the formatting, of course, because we have to have some kind of formatting. You don't need to, I don't believe I had references. It says reference list if relevant. So if you have references, great. If you don't worry about it. And so that is the make a bucket list activity. There's another one that I've done before that I don't like. This one sounds to me kind of like being fun. The other one is you make a list, of 20 things, and then you start crossing them off. And that one, like and you don't have any, like 20 things that are important to you kind of thing. And then you cross them off, and then you're trying to decide between your 2 children. And that's no fun. So I like this one a lot better. All right, so let's go back, make sure that we've covered that. So we did the reading, the lesson, the activity, and then the journal. So for dying and end of life care, the week 8 journal, the last entry from the lessons, research cultural and or spiritual rituals and customs related to death or end of life care. In your journal, describe one of these that is new to you. Include the culture and the custom, why you chose it, and in what way you as a healthcare professional could help the client maintain their sense of cultural or spiritual identity. So this is kind of similar to the Padlet that you did on the birth practices, postpartum practices. It's just it's not a Padlet. So any specific culture, spiritual ritual, custom, and describe it and how you could help to help the family maintain their sense of culture and spiritual identity. Sometimes in those rough times, healthcare professionals do a poor job of doing that because we want to get it done, and that doesn't serve the family or the client. All right, so we are back there. We did that. We did that. We did that. All right. So I believe, let me stop sharing. No, wait, let me go back to the module because I want to look at the quiz. So you are also working on your week 7 journal and then your week 8 journal. Remember, we're trying to get everything done by Friday so that I have some time to finish grading to get the grades out by Monday. There is the quiz. Here are your focus areas for the quiz. And so know the differences between the physiological and the psychological process of dying, be able to define physician-assisted suicide, know what that is, compare and contrast grief, bereavement, and mourning, know the definitions of hospice and palliative care, and then be familiar with the responses to grief, the stages for Kubler-Ross, Bowlby, and Worden, and then different types and uses for legal healthcare documents. So those match with quite a few of the course objectives. And for this particular quiz, let me show you quiz. Let me show you the directions, which it's not going to give me. Okay, so you basically have, I want to say 7 questions. 3 of them are multiple choice. 4 of them are short answer essay. So you are actually being given, I'm going to change, that should be 3 hours. That's 2 hours. I'm going to give you 3 hours for this one so that you have time to work on those short answers and you still have your 2 attempts that are allowed. So I'll go back in at 7 questions. It's worth 10 points, but I'm going to give you 3 hours since there are 4 short answer questions. I will do that. And you have your focus areas. And so that, I believe, brings us to the end of the first video that talks about all the assignments and the requirements for the week. Other thing I should probably, no, I'm going to do that in a separate video. I'll go over the health promotion project in the journal entries. So that will do it for this first video, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.